Hey, what's up guys and gals, my name is Sobzin, and today I'll be explaining simple coding concepts in terms of Mario Kart. To start with the foundation of code, variables. Variables are essential to creating a truly functional project as they hold data points that you'll need to use throughout your project. Now this can be an array of user IDs or passwords for a social media site, or just a simple score counter for a video game. Now let's just jump straight into it and take a look at this item container. This item container for Mario Kart can contain a vast array of items, a banana, green shell, bullet bill, or any other item code into the game. That item that is in the item container is then the value given to the item container. To explain in simple terms, this particular item container holds a banana, meaning if you were to pick up this item container, you'd be given a banana in your inventory. Now translating this to code would be simply item container is equal to banana, which is a string in this case. Now, I also want you to note how I wrote out item container. I started off with a lowercase first letter, item, and followed by a uppercase C in container. This is called camel case, and if I were to do, say, item container box, the B in box would also be uppercase. And this is sort of the norm for writing out variables or functions in your code. Now, in most coding languages, a variable can hold a string, boolean, integer, and /float, which are numbers that can hold decimal places. And so with that brief overview of variables, let's move on to functions. So let's take a look at the Baby Park map for Mario Kart. As you can see from the layout of the map, it's a fairly simple map, with it being in the shape of an oval. The moves that you would need to complete a lap on the map are to 1. Move forward, 2. Drift around a corner, 3. Move forward, and 4. Drift around a corner. Now you need to repeat these actions 7 times, as 7 laps is the amount required to finish the map. However, this is an incredibly inefficient and unorganized way to write your code. As you can see, we use 28 lines of code. That's where functions come into play. Functions allow you to organize your code and make it easier to read and understand for others and yourself. So let's call a function lap. And inside lap, we can put all the instructions needed to complete a lap. Now, all we have to do is call this function 7 times, and as you can see here, we cut 28 lines of code down to just 7. However, there is a more efficient and organized way to write it, and that's where loops come into play. Loops are essentially running code, well, in a loop. Loops are a nice and concise way to wrap up code so that you're not having to type the same piece of code over and over. Now, going back to the Baby Park example, we're going to have a loop that ends once 7 laps have been completed. Now this represented in JavaScript would be for let I equal to 1, I is less than 7, I++, and inside we have a call to our lap function. So how this for loop works is by repeating the section of code within the loop, which is our lap function, and increasing I, which is our laps, each time until the condition, the code in the middle, I is less than 7, is false. Meaning we'll iterate through this loop 7 times, and each time we increase I, our laps, by 1. And so once I say equal to 8, this for loop will stop running and it won't call the lap function. Therefore, we summed up 7 lines of code into just 3 lines. Now there's also this thing called a while loop, which is used in specific cases. It works by running the section of code under it until the condition is false. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between a while loop and a for loop? Well, the difference is that a for loop sort of, forces you to sort of set a condition to stop, while a while loop is a bit more unbounded. So this means that your piece of code can technically run infinitely and possibly crash your computer. And that is why it's important to make sure that your coding logic is sound before running. So we're going to have a variable called laps, which is equal to 1, which is an integer. And then we're going to have a while loop, which has the condition of laps less than or equal to 7. And inside, we're going to call our lap function and increase laps by 1. And so what this while loop is doing is every time the condition is true, meaning while laps is less than or equal to 7, it'll continue to run, but it'll increase laps by 1. So let's go through it one time. So let's say laps is equal to 1. It passes the condition test, so it's true. And so it'll run lap, and then it'll increase laps by 1. And so now laps is 2, and then we'll run it again, and 2 is less than or equal to 7. So we're going to run lap, increase laps by 1, and then this will keep happening until laps is equal to 8, but by then we'll have completed 7 laps. Hey, what's up, y'all? I just thought I should do a quick visualization of everything that I explained, just so, it helps solidify it a little bit more. As you can see here, we have the same laps variable, the same while loop, and the only thing that's different is instead of the lap function, we have a console.log lap as a way to sort of be a placeholder and to sort of visualize it a little better. So I'm going to click run here. It's going to run the while loop, like normal, and you can see here we call laps 7 times, and so this just shows that that this while loop does work. But I guess while I'm at it, I can show a quick test case of this function, not function, this while loop running infinitely. So say I got rid of the laps, clear it, yeah, it just keeps running it, as you can see. Yep, just infinite lines. So that is why you want to make sure the logic of your code is sound before running a while loop. So let's move on to conditions. Now, conditions. Conditions help you create the logic in your program. For example, say there was a banana in front of you. You would obviously want to steer away from it, and that is one case in which a condition works. Conditions are declared by if/else if/else statements. So let's take a look at some code here. So if banana in front is equal to true, steer to the right. So fairly simple, right? If you had a banana right in front of you, you would just steer to the right because the condition is true. But if the condition is not true, you'll just continue moving forward with the else statement here. Now, that is a simple case of a condition, but let's try a slightly more complicated one. So we'll have if have mushroom is equal to true, and inside that if statement, we'll have if is in first place is equal to false, you'll use the mushroom. So in this case, we have it to where if you do have a mushroom in your inventory and you're not in first place, you're going to use your mushroom. Which in a game sort of makes sense because you'd want to catch up to first place. And even though you probably would use the mushroom to extend your lead in first place, for this example, you'll only use it if you're not in first place. But let's just say you didn't have a mushroom. Let's go to the else statement here. So in the else statement, we have a function called mope that you don't have a mushroom. And so if you don't have a mushroom, you're just really sad that you don't have a mushroom. But I think the main important part of this if statement is the fact that I nested an if statement inside another if statement. So through this sort of process, you can do very specific cases. In your projects that you would want to do, it'd probably make more sense. But in a sort of general overall sense, it just helps you sort of sort down specific cases for your code. I could have also put an if statement in the else statement and really could have fleshed it out, but I think this is a pretty nice way to wrap up conditions. So that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I would definitely love to make a part 2 to this, as there are a lot of coding concepts that I didn't go over. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, as it'll help out a lot. And I hope you enjoyed this type of content, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.